Okay, cool. Recording now. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Eden ƒractal week 15. Hope everybody's doing great. We were just talking about interim consensus processes. I shared a proposal for Eden votes last night, and Tadas has been working on a proposal as well. So that's what we were discussing. I think Chris was sharing something, but then we decided to start recording. So would you like to continue sharing anything here, Chris?
Not on the record.
Okay. We can talk about it later off the record, but also, I mean, feel free to share stuff on the record too.
I'm just being a weirdo. I'll talk
Okay.
about it later.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I'm also just getting stuff set up too. So if anybody wants to share any thoughts or lead the conversation in whatever direction, then feel free. It seems like Vlad is deep in thought at the coffee shop on the beautiful furniture chair, thinking about proposals and doing math equations in his head or something.
Pretty much.
Hey, Nicholas, good to see you. Welcome, Waxa. Thanks again for joining us. Great to have you here, and Marco as well. Thank you. By the way, I also just gave everybody recording permissions so everybody can record. And also I just gave everybody screen sharing permissions. So during the meetings, everybody can share their screens. I think that's something that Nicholas and Chris and I talked about during the recent town hall. That makes it like really cool when people share presentations, show what they're doing.
You know, you can record without granting permissions.
Yeah, well, I mean, people can record via OBS or like screen recording or something like that.
Oh, but I think this is good, letting everybody know you're recording. I think it's the ethical thing to do.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And I try to make that, super clear because I don't want to ever be in a situation where somebody gets recorded and they don't feel like they consented or wanted to be recorded. So it says recording in the top left of the Zoom screen for me. And then I put it on the website and try to just, make it clear and stuff. Hey, Lucas. Great to see you. It's super quiet right now.
Hey everyone.
Hey, Charles.
Hey Dan.
How you doing?
How are we doing today?
Doing great.
So are we doing the new system then for today? Top 3, top 5. Top respected members being able to vote at the end.
I'm not sure. So Charles, did you see the votes proposal that I made?
Yeah.
So I'd be curious to hear your thoughts about that, as well as everybody's thoughts about that.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Evgeny, great to see you. Thanks for joining.
I'll check it out again just to be sure.
Okay. Yeah, I just posted it yesterday about 9 hours
Oh, it
ago
was
or something like
yesterday.
that. Yeah.
Maybe I didn't check it.
Yeah. It's a new proposal. So Tadas has been working on a proposal, and also Vlad and some other people have been contributing thoughts to it. And then I shared a bunch last night. I shared in the ƒractal chat in Discord. I shared kind of a preview of it, but then also in the interim consensus process of the interim consensus process thread of the proposals initiative channel. I shared a link to a new proposal for votes. I can also share the links in the Zoom chat if it'd be helpful, but there's a Google Doc and also a website, edencreators.com/votes, where I have a proposal whereby everybody can vote with the new token for Eden Fractal called votes. And then I also shared a couple other documents about Tadas's proposal and about the consensus process and some more thoughts about it in there. You see it?
Yeah, I just found it on Discord. And yeah, having a token just for voting is similar to what IFA has been doing, I think. Having a token just to enable voting. I'd have to check the whole document to be sure. Let's see.
Cool. Yep, sounds good. It's similar to what HIP is doing in that regard. And yeah, basically the idea is that we'd create a new token that works essentially like the Eden Respect token, but it's never tradable ever, and it's called votes. So people earn the same amount of it as you do, just by participating in meetings, and then we could make it so that I set up some parameters, like you need to get at least 2/3 of the votes percentage and stuff to pass a proposal and so forth. But that way everybody can vote, as opposed to just being 6 people who form a council. Then everybody can have some vote, and people who earn more votes and more respect in the community can have more votes.
Okay. Thanks for the summary. Checking the website also. Edencreators/votes. Yeah.
Yeah, the website, it's a little bit, I'm trying to fix the formatting. So there's also the Google Doc where people can, 1, see it in a little bit of a cleaner format, and then 2, be able to make suggestions and comments and so forth if would like. And yeah, any feedback would be appreciated.
Okay, I found the Eden Votes proposal, Google Docs. I think it's the most explanatory document about all this.
Yeah, the website and the Google Docs both have the same content, both have the same text. It's just a little bit cleaner, I think, on Google Docs. Yeah, and then there's the other links too. But for the actual Eden Votes proposal, the Google Docs or the website share it in entirety.
Did you play some music or something?
Sing us a song, Dan, will you?
I would like. I'm also still setting up my presentation for like the upcoming breakout room too, so I'm a little bit distracted. Sorry for the delay. But if anybody else wants to sing a song, I mean, I suppose I could sing it. Although I'm not sure what to sing. If anybody has any requests, and then also I do think that like if we can get like some public domain music or some live music or something like that during these beginning, like that'd be awesome.
I only know lullabies, raising kids. Continue.
I was just starting to sing Ave Maria because I figured that was fitting. Ave Maria. No, I'm just joking. No. But I'm sorry, Lenny, you're going to sing some lullabies for us?
I said I better not, we're not supposed to go to sleep yet, but I've got some experience with it.
Yeah, nobody's ever supposed to sing. I mean, but it's fun, always. That's what karaoke is for. Yeah, that one makes it fun. We don't know how to sing, but singing is fun either way. Just expressing yourself, always. I don't know that many songs myself.
Just as pressing yourself, you said?
Hmm?
Just as pressing yourself, you said?
Expressing yourself.
Oh,
always.
expressing. Okay, yep.
With regarding the heart, always.
Well said.
Let's see. I just went through most of the paper. What at
Cool.
least it says on the votes.
I was also going to ask Charles, do you sing?
Yes, I used to be in a band in my youth and
Oh.
was a singer, actually.
Awesome. I didn't know that. I had no idea.
Nobody knows
Any-
that. It's for the best.
Well, I was wondering, is there any songs we may have heard before on the top 100?
No, absolutely not. But yeah, anyone's hearing me today, my girlfriends and maybe the neighbors when I'm in the shower, as always. That's it.
Well, I'd love to hear it if you have any recordings out there, or if you're ever willing to sing at the Eden Fractal events or during the giveaway show or wherever else.
The giveaway show would be impressive, sure. If everybody asks in the chat, I gotta oblige, right? I can't say no to the community. So maybe someday, when oblige.
Everybody's got to ask in the chat.
All right. But regarding the votes process, I went through most of it. It seems fun. Yeah. I mean, the idea of having a token just for voting went fine, just for now for IFA. I think that they haven't regressed yet from the idea. So I suppose it works well. And as always, it's just an interim process. I mean, when the ƒractal is officially launched with the ƒractal UI, we'll have a own token for everything. But this as an interim process is fine, sure. Votes can be traded, so they won't hurt anyone. We can just experiment with all this. So for me, fine, yeah. Just distributing tokens, voting tokens during the weekly meetings. It's another way of making sure everybody has a voice until they can actually have a voice with the council, electing team members, etc.
Cool.
Okay, yeah, seems fine. Thanks for everything. Yeah, you made a really good documentation on all this.
Thank you, Charles. I appreciate it. And yeah, thank you very much for the feedback. I'm glad that you like it. And yeah, I agree with your summary of it. Also, welcome, Chris, and welcome to Das. Great to see you both.
I think the Chris's are starting to take over.
Slowly but surely.
Quick words. I saw, has anyone considered combining the James Mart paper, the Oviedo paper, and the votes? And by the way, I love the idea of vote tokens.
Cool. Thanks, Marco. Yeah, I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you love it. And I don't know. I mean, I'd be curious to think how is best to combine them. I know that when I was writing the votes, I was thinking a lot about Tadas's proposal and using parts of it that I thought were helpful and inspiration and so forth. But also the votes is kind of just I kind of put out a first version last night, so it can be improved for sure. Be curious if Tadas has any thoughts you'd like to share too.
Yeah, I just a couple of like 20 minutes ago started reading Vote's proposal. In general, I like it. I like it much better than your previous proposal, Dan. It might even be better than my proposal. Although, I don't know, if Vlad already talked about it, how much, how hard would it be to implement it? If my proposal would be easier, or if this one, yeah, I will still look deeper into it. So maybe I will change my opinion a bit, but yeah, generally it seems like a good idea.
Well, I think it would be important for us to vote and approve some sort of proposal today.
I think, something you want to say there, Tadas?
Personally, I don't see much reason to rush it too much. And I mean, if whole community is not fully sure, I don't think we should assume that any proposal is passed, since we don't really have any consensus process yet.
Yeah, I agree with
Well,
that.
that's what I'm referring to, the consensus process, even an interim one.
Yeah, but I mean, how do we decide that that it's passed? Like, even if passing with into my proposal, or it's
One solution to try to get something done when we don't have a firm handle on it would be re-ratifying every week. We can do that this week. So we can follow what Chris was saying with whatever's on the table, and then we just ratify it at the beginning of the week. And,
Yeah, I think that I agree with what Tadas was saying, that I don't think there's a huge rush. I think we would definitely want to do it, soon. Pass a proposal. I think maybe next week is a good thing to aim for. But I think that given, like, I haven't had full chance to digest fully Tadas's proposal because I was writing this, and but I'll have a lot more time this week to think more about Tadas's proposal. People have more time to think about the vote's proposal. We can think about ways to, take the best parts from each one, if necessary, make a better proposal or whatever. I don't think there's something that needs to be passed today. I think it's probably best for us to take more time and just, consider it and talk and so forth. Yeah, and then Tadas also thanks for the feedback as well. And you said something else that I can't quite remember, but yeah, I appreciate it and looking forward to working with you and more and talking with you more about these things.
Yeah, I had I think I mentioned this in the town hall on Sunday. I went to Consortium and saw that well, currently there's only 2 votes on the proposal, and I wasn't going to vote because I was going to treat it as if it was in effect. So if the current top 6 can't even vote, then how are we ever going to get that process to work if they're not even willing to vote at this point? You understand what I'm saying?
Well, I would reply that in my opinion, it's like I said, there is no rush. That's why I, for example, didn't vote yet. And I see that the community still has feedback regarding my proposal, so I don't see any hope to get it passed yet. So I'm not doing these actions. Yeah, but we probably have to go into the breakout rooms.
Yep, good point. I'll
Just-
start break rooms now. Oh, someone saying something?
Just curious, what's the quorum for this vote? How
vote
many people
proposal?
need to vote? What's the minimum vote? Yeah.
Well, are you saying the vote's proposal, not Tadas's proposal? Or
Any
either
vote.
one?
Any vote that this group does, it's supposed to be quote unquote official. How do you define quorum?
Well, right now there's 2 different proposals for interim consensus processes to define that. So right now it's not defined. Tadas has a proposal that has basically 4 out of 6 of the people who have been ranked highly in recent meetings. And then I made a proposal that I shared last night, whereby I suppose the minimum quorum would be like 33% of vote tokens with a 67% approval.
Okay, vote tokens.
Yeah, that's a
Got it.
new.
You guys should maybe use Haifa for this. They do vote tokens built into their UI.
Yeah, that's definitely something to explore. And somebody mentioned the similarities in Haifa. I just shared, by the way, in the Zoom chat, a page where I kind of just summarized. I have links to the votes proposal and to DAS's proposal, as well as some other links there. So if you haven't checked it, and then also in the Discord, there's a lot more going on in the interim consensus process. But yeah, as Das was saying, we should probably go into breakout rooms and then discuss this after the meetings. I'll create, currently there's 14, so I'll create 3 rooms. And then if you're in a room with 4, then I think just put, if nobody else joins, then put Eden MSig 111 as the level 2. And yep, I just opened it up. It was a great time.
Guys.
Hey everyone.
Seen everyone except Chris Waxa, half early.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. What was that?
Everyone here I know except you. But
Nice to meet you.
My name's Marco.
Chris, nice to meet you. I'll tell you a bit more about what I do when I explain what I've been doing this week.
Cool. That sounds good. Would anybody like to share the contributions first? By the way, I think everybody knows, but I'm recording, and we'll share this on YouTube pretty soon. But yeah, and also Wax, I like your background too. That looks like a fun place you got going on there.
Thank you. It's just that the Helios team were all in Mexico, so I felt left out. So I found a really nice looking Mexico background.
There you go.
I'm gonna say that does not, the shadows don't look right. There's some Photoshoppery going on there.
There's something going on. HDR, I think.
Well, I hope that you enjoy your Mexican safari while you're down there.
Who knows where I'll end up next meeting?
I can start first because it's gonna be really quick. So I can start first.
Sounds good.
Okay, so hi everyone. I introduce myself. I'm Nicholas. I'm one of the builder bees at EOSBees. And so the last 7 days, if you you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so yesterday we did a swarm, so that worked well. This is about the EOS charity, so we want to swarm that tweet about charity thanks to like EOS community. So it worked well. It got like 313 likes and 288 retweets. So yeah, it went perfectly well. Besides that, I'm still doing the EOS price index for people that, like, you know, Dan had already talked about. So basically, what it is an index that I publish every week, so every Monday, and basically just gather a couple of several variables, which as indicators that I transform into variables, and so with a coefficient, and it gives us a final result, which is like an index. The higher it is, the bigger the opportunity to buy EOS is. So how bullish it is, basically, this is what it shows. I take very simple technical analysis indicators. You can see them on the internet. You can see the definition of how it works. And so yeah, I publish that every Monday. There is 2 of them. There is one for like more the short term, because of course, depending on what period you analyze things, the indicators are not the same at all. And so there's one for the short term, for 45 days, and one for the long term. And so yeah, I published one like every Monday. So this Monday. So yeah, so this is basically it. So like I said, it was really short. If you have any question, you can ask me now or after everyone talk. So yeah, thank you guys.
Cool. Sounds great. Thank you very much, Nicholas. Would you like to select somebody else to go next, or anyone else to go next?
Yeah, you can go, my wax. Sorry, Dan. So you can go then.
Actually, would
Sorry.
somebody else mind going? I just had somebody just joined the room, so I just want to make sure they get in the room.
Okay.
You can go.
Okay.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah. Everyone, I'm Andrew. I'm pretty sure I've met everyone before, either in Fractally or Chris. I was at the Helios, yeah, the Helios, whatever you call it,
Incubator.
incubator. There we go. It's pretty early for me, so and a little too early to wake up everyone in the house with the coffee grinder. So apologize for that. Anyway, let's see. This week, as far as stuff I've been doing for EOS, mostly just working on articles for various things. There's the Leap upgrade guide and the features guide. So those I already worked on those, but there's multiple things that keep needing to be updated as people send things in. I guess Coinbase sent something regarding the so they were in order to see if you need to spend weeks replaying the whole blockchain, you need to see if you have the right blocks log file. And unfortunately, if you're running 2.1 EOSIO 2.1, then you need to do a whole weeks long replay. And Coinbase got back to us and let us know about a few issues with the instructions that we had. So I had to go and update those. Kind of a pain for Brandon Lovejoy, because he's the one who's frequently having to update that stuff, but he's a good trooper about that. Also working on the Everything EOS weekly report, which that I've taken over from you, Dan. So I appreciate you having a good attitude about that, and it feels weird sort of taking on the yeah, just the responsibility, but it's, I got big shoes to fill, but I'll do my best.
That sounds good.
And then I've also been working on a project for EOS Nation that's focused around trying to help all of the participants in the EOS ecosystem figure out why they're losing transactions. So that's a multi-tiered approach. You need block producers, you need wallet developers, smart contract developers, and core developers, all to interface with each other and be able to talk to each other. So I've been working on a project for that, and that I'm not a lead old coder typer guy or anything like that, but I'm sort of helping tune sort of customer values and that kind of thing. Anyway, that's the bulk of what I've been working on today, or this week, I guess. And on that note, I can, if Dan's ready, I can pass it back to Dan.
Yep. Cool. Sounds good. Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you for joining us early without coffee. Much appreciated. And also, I'm glad you're doing the weekly report. I wasn't sure if it was going to be you or somebody else, but I think you'll do an awesome job on that. So I'm looking forward to reading it. So cool. Yeah, I'll share a bit of a presentation to show what I've been doing to help EOS and Eden Fractal and Eden and so forth. So here's the website that I've been just maintaining. Didn't make changes to it this week. This week I sent out 1,000, or actually this is last week that I sent out 1,000 EOS each to James Mart and Vlad for retroactive public goods funding for building DAO tooling with Eden Fractal for revolutionary process of Go Fractal and EOS. So I made out a nice tweet and put together some artwork this week, and also help promote Eden Fractal. There's a lot more that I'm excited to announce soon that I'm sharing. And so sent that out from Chief Delegate budget funding, and I'm excited to do much more. I also retweeted Patrick also donated to 450 EOS to Das and Jorge each. And so I retweeted and supported that in many different places. And then overall, I shared in a bunch of channels that got some pretty decent impressions and engagements and so forth. So spreading the word about Eden Fractal and EOS and so forth. I think that this tweet promotes everything, promotes the work of everybody in the builders, Eden Fractal, EOS, Go Fractally. So I think it's quite nice. And then, yeah, I shared it in a bunch of different channels. I also participated in most of the meetings that Joshua Seymour has been hosting on the Go Fractally site. For example, yesterday or 2 days ago, I joined the Unpacking More Equal Animals space. And then yesterday we talked about practically white paper and stuff like that. Marco was there as well. So we had great conversations. I encourage everybody to join these at 18 UTC on every weekday. There's a bunch of different ones. I also hosted last week's meeting, and then I post all the videos on edenfractal.com/videos. And then I just updated it with Felix's video as well. A big project that I did this week was the interim consensus process. So I've had this page for a while, but I updated it to show the active proposals, which is an Eden Votes proposal I just made, and also Tadas's proposal. Then I also just organized it to show withdrawn proposals and lots of resources and videos with timestamps of discussions of it and so forth. So you can check out edencreators.com/interim consensus process or Eden Fractal something. I had to fix the URL a bit. I made a proposal edencreators.com/votes, whereby everybody who participates in weekly meetings can vote in community decisions. I just published this like 9 hours ago, so we were talking about a bit before, and I'm very interested to hear what people think. There's a website here that has a summary. I'm still working on getting the formatting fixed a bit, and then there's also a Google Doc where people can edit changes and so forth. And then additionally, I also shared a document for the limitations about what it can be used for and the jurisdiction and so forth. And I also proposed a lot of feedback for Tadas's proposal as well. And James and Tadas have shared some proposal. I shared this in the Eden Discord, where you can learn more in the interim consensus process channel or the thread for it. And so I wrote out more about this, and also wrote about why I think we should wait for the proposal and so forth, and linked to all these different things. And then I also linked to a discussion I had with Dan Larimer at the Genesis Fractal meeting, talking about this votes proposal as well as a funding strategy for Eden Fractal. That's all posted there, and you can watch the video on the Eden Creators YouTube channel. And I also give presentations about Eden Fractal and EOS and stuff at each of these meetings with Fractally team members, Fractally community members. And then, yeah, I also participated in the 9th Chief Delegates meeting, where I talked about all sorts of different things for Eden and Eden Fractal, and I'm working on a bylaw proposal for the Eden on EOS election system. And then I also had like a 3-hour conversation. We only recorded about 5 minutes from the Eden Town Hall this week. So lots of interesting discussions. And I participate in the Helios Twitter Spaces hosted by Waxa every week. We discuss all things about, or lots of things about the hackathon and Eden on EOS and Eden Fractal and much more. And then I also retweeted Helios's and several other posts about consortium and all sorts of things to support. I also, last week was the last week I wrote the weekly report. So I did this for the past 6 months or so. And so I put a lot of work into this. And this week I wrote an article that included DAOs and talked about Eden Fractal and some DAO tools from a member named Shans, who joined here last week and joined again this week. And then I also hosted the Hot Sauce for last week too. And so I talked about lots of interesting things, including Eden Fractal and also stuff about EOS and Fractally and DAOs and stuff. And then in my 4 minutes, I'll wrap it up now. But yeah, I also just posted a lot. There's a lot of discussion in the Eden on EOS chat. I responded to people to help promote Eden Fractal and help share everybody's work in the community and so forth. So this took a lot of time, and I think and I hope that it helped people understand. There's a lot of misunderstandings about it, but basically took the time to just explain how Eden Fractal helps EOS and so forth for a while. And that's that. I'll wrap it up there. Thanks everybody, and hope you enjoyed. Feel free to ask any questions. Maybe if Wax would like to go next, or
Sure. There's quite a bit of crossover there between what I've done and what you've done at the end there, Dan. It's good. So for Eden Fractal, we've held the Twitter Spaces, which you attended on Friday. And we specifically talked about Eden Fractal, which was great because we got to kind of promote it a little bit at the start, being my first week last week. We have talked about it quite a lot over the previous weeks, but this week was just a good, quick shout out at the start. For Eden itself, I've further developed the Eden election website. So now I've got all the past chief delegates on there, and that links to their Eden accounts. I've also got a quote now from Dan as well, which is on there. So that's really pretty much fleshed out, brand new website, and it's going through the review process at the moment with Chris Barnes. For EOS, With Helios, we've done the Ideathon, so that's all been through a check-through process with DevPost. That's pretty much ready to go. There's been a few subtle changes with the website and some spelling changes, etc., and the artwork's on there. Then we brought out a blog. I wrote that blog earlier this week, I believe, and that's gone out live along with amplification on social media. We did the top 5 on Sunday. That went out live, so that's the top 5 ESIO and Antelope moments, just kind of drawn people's attention to everything that's been going on in the ecosystem. Then I attended the incubator as well earlier this week, so we're helping more projects build their business profile into the ecosystem. What's in progress at the moment is a Web3 investor report, and that should be coming out this week, possibly today. So that's been a work in progress over the last week. As you mentioned, Dan, on the ecosystem page on the Helios website, that's been updated now to include consortium after finding out about it last meeting. And with the bees, ongoing continued support with Helios bees, and attended their meeting earlier on in the week. And one last thing, managed to get a good shout out on the fireside chat for the Ideathon as well, which I'll be doing later today, hopefully. So that's everything from me. Thank you. And you're last to go.
Real quick, everything else and the hot sauce produced by the same writer.
Yeah, so for the past 6 months, I hosted the hot sauce and I wrote the weekly report. So that was mostly me doing everything there, and with a bit of editing from the EOS Nation team.
Right, so you do get other eyes on there.
I'm sorry?
Or you did eyes on there then.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you please repeat?
Other eyes? Other...
Yeah, there were a couple of reviewers on the Everything EOS weekly reports. Most times they didn't make any changes, but there were a couple times they made some changes here and there.
No, because my way I've been presenting it was that there's a different writer for hot sauce and everything else. So the investigative process was independent. I didn't realize it was the same person, but now Andrew's doing the everything else, and you're still doing the hot sauce, right?
No, it'll be Stefan and Martin doing the hot sauce from now on.
Right. So again, all right, we had 2 different sources. All right. I was just presenting it different. I was presenting it as independent. You said 6 months. All right. So the history or chronology and link database of EOS going back to the power up at least is ongoing in briefings. There's a dedicated ƒractal and Eden section. The Eden section came first. That's why it's listed first. And these meetings play a role of what the content goes in there. As Dan mentioned, I joined a small group with just me, him, and Joshua. And same thing was really for the BitShares team. We did see some expansion out of that. We're looking to target NFTs on an NFT ƒractal. It's relevant here because BitShares wants to be the exchange that you can exchange tokens, different ƒractal tokens between the ƒractals. The NFT thing is relevant to BitShares because BitShares just had an app for NFT issuance. It's cumbersome from what I hear, but it did go live and I hear it works. Can't verify that, but some other stuff, but I'll leave it there.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Thanks, Marco.
It's also the briefings thing is also a invitation to join these things. So once in a while there is some interest, and I'm looking for anything that helps that, because Bywire is really now pushing the briefings thing on a weekly basis. Been thinking about it. I haven't had any good ideas other than a little join link for ƒractal, but I know there's a way because briefings is really pushing that harder, and they're pushing EOS hard. And at some point, briefings will amp up its presentation. So if we can, I know Dan said we don't want to grow too fast, but if anyone has ideas, joining or attracting people, I kind of hide it in there, so you kind of got to read it. The, the tweets are flashy for briefing stuff. We're good to go. Yeah.
Sounds great. What's that?
Yeah, we're good to go to the consensus.
Cool. Does anybody have any questions for anybody or thoughts they'd like to share before we get into consensus?
What's the best way of doing the consensus process? Because last week we started with the person at the top and then we worked down. I'm not sure what's the best in your experience, Dan, and everyone else.
Yeah, I think that's usually the best. Usually we type in like level 6 and then we'll just go like is everybody ready to submit your vote or submit your the name of whoever you think did the most contributions? Then we'll go like that, thumbs up, and then when everybody's ready, then we'll hit the enter button, and then we'll see from there, and then thereafter do for level 5 and level 4 and repeat and so forth.
Cool.
There's no set way, and the way Dan Larimer presented the whole thing is it's up to the group to reach it. And I like bringing that up because initially people had said, yeah, they'd rather do the blind. They don't want to get into the whole confrontational thing, but it was always open, and it's a moot point really because the UI will change things. But the interesting thing about the UI, if you see the demo video, is that you start ranking people as soon as they start presenting. So you see the ranks going throughout this process, which is different from what we're doing. But
So do you vote for yourself as well? Because last week we voted for ourselves. I don't know if that's allowed.
it's an option, whatever we decide here.
Yeah, I think it's all right. If anybody wants to vote for themselves, then I think they should be able to do that. It looks like Wax is deep in thought. You might have to go climb a tree out in Mexico to think this over and go get coconut or something.
Background, hold on.
You don't have to change it. I like it. I think it looks cool. Unless you're gonna go like a treetop canopy background. Oh wow. There we go. Wax in the future.
Refreshing.
Fits in with your white shirt too.
Yeah. My chair's black. That's strange.
What's your chair's black? Oh, it is getting at your chair.
Yeah, it's cool. Looks like I'm just really here. Okay. Well, I think I'm ready to vote. I don't know if everyone else is.
I'm all ready to vote.
Yeah, ready to.
Okay, yeah, I'm ready to. Shall we go in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, it looks like it's not consensus. I have 3 votes and Andrew has 2 votes. I'm happy to go with myself, and I think I did do a lot this week in particular. But also Andrew, he does awesome work in general, and he's only been able to attend 1 meeting so far, and he's waking up early, and I think that like Andrew deserves a huge amount of respect too. So I'd be happy if anybody wants to change their vote to Andrew, or I'd also be happy to change my vote to myself too.
I would advocate for you, Dan. I think I appreciate what you said about that, and it's probably relevant, but I think it's pretty clear that you've put an immense amount of effort into this, and I think it's not just wasted effort; it's very valuable effort. So, yeah, that's I would advocate for you, Dan.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much, Andrew. I appreciate it. So, okay, cool. So I'll change my vote to myself too then in that case, and we can move on to level 5. Is everybody ready with there you go. 3, 2, 1, go.
Hey, well, 4.
Okay, looks like we have consensus. I'm just going to put in a message so everybody know.
Thank you.
Cool. 4. Is it ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Okay. Got consensus on wax it. Hmm. Is everybody ready for level 3? 3, 2, 1, go.
I abstain, so that's consensus.
Okay, cool. So
Okay.
I think we have consensus all around then.
And Marco, I just wanted to let you know that I do have a lot of respect for the work that you're doing, and I will gladly sort of reward you in the Genesis fractal for all the fractal work. I'm
Well,
mainly
I wasn't gonna
focusing on
say anything, but
EOS here.
here's 2 points. We're not, we are rewarded person. We have to remember that we are have the community's heart at mind. That brings other complicated issues. Then the last point is independent. I go out of my way to promote people like EOS Daily or EOS Vision, where they provide daily news and the recaps by Lenny. Because if you got a business, if you got a community, one thing that will come to terms will be, is this a corporate release? When that's found out, things come to a brick wall. Because take something like Bloomberg, you can't have a news as big as it is, as big as influential it is. You can't have an objective news site that has the name of the person on there. There's movies about that stuff. So the value of independent production is a huge deal. My newsletter may be independent, but at the same time, being published by Bywire. So if Bywire decides not to publish it, there goes the audience. Nevertheless, the content is completely independent. So I just throw those 2 things out there, and I use this time because ultimately what we want here is the success of these platforms. We're so early, that really doesn't matter. Well, it matters a little bit. It kind of doesn't matter what kind of respect we get, because at the end of the day, if it's a success, we're all big influencers here. You have a link to the tool, Dan?
Yeah. No, I'll get a link. I just posted the names of every EOS account. I think that I got it right, but please double check the order and then the spelling of your EOS account name to make sure it's correct. And then yeah, I'll find the tool and then Marco. Yeah, I completely agree with what Andrew's saying. That I also greatly respect your work, Marco, as well as everybody's here. Everybody's doing amazing work. And then also
I know
very
you
well
guys,
said,
you guys
Marco.
say you respect my work, but no one ever comes to the point. I'm from New York. I've worked in the city. My father has worked with an international company. I've been schooled where in the headquarters of the financial center of the world, which is on the Jersey side. A news release from a corporation is a killer at some point. The independent news. It's a joke, Bloomberg. As big as it is, the name of the guy on there is a complete horror to a news agency, and that's something that's not at the professional level. So it's a big deal when somebody like Lenny has his recaps that he's doing independently, because someone sees that that it's still possible to get that word out there. That's the recognition I want. My recognition is fine. We're early enough that it's not going to be a big deal. But the recognition I like is to not have the idea that you can be Bloomberg. It's just so counterintuitive to what the news is supposed to be. There it is. Anyway, that's what I'm trying to get out there. That's because I know that'll lead to success at some point as we go. 3, right?
Oh, yeah, room. Yes, that's correct, room 3.
I think we are room 3, yeah.
We used to have a tool, and by we, I mean the internet, the world, human society, called muckety.com. Muckety.com was more important than the Associated Press. Members of the press, or really anybody, could access this open source mind web. It's like, but it's interactive, and you would post legal and meetings and relationship links between CEOs, business leaders, government officials, presidents, and the like. You click on their name, you see all the legal meetings, all their connections that have been reported, and then it would just expand. That was a valuable tool that was live for like 5 to 8 years. The site is down now, finally, but for a while you could get so much information so quickly, and all that stuff was lodged with not just used to U.S. government, governments around the world. And not just governments, businesses, corporations, filings, videos, things. That's the kind of stuff that, wait a minute.
Apparently I was muted the whole time as I was trying to speak. But yeah, I was just saying, in response to Marco a bit, that I'm excited about how these all like the amazing builders and writers and creators in our community, and then like these processes that we get together and collaborate and help each other out with fractals and stuff, and EOS and everything. Like I'm excited to reinvent the media space in many ways and empower people who are, you know, independent creators who are sharing their opinions.
Real quick, are we supposed to have anyone in the bottom slot? Or is
No,
that just empty?
yeah, we just leave that blank. It's best
Got
to leave that blank for now.
Yeah.
Isn't it nice not having to pay like $15 just to vote on the consensus here? I was thinking about that playing Upland the other day. I was like, I'm doing all this stuff. I don't have to spend $10 per transaction. It's crazy.
Yeah, it
Said
is
that,
quite nice.
many times when I talk to people, yeah, it's great. It always comes to a point. It's always a point. You gotta pay this fee that EOS you're used to, you don't pay it. People will see that with the EVM. Anybody got a launch date for the EVM? I know the IBC is coming right after Antelope, but when is the Trust Network supposed to launch?
I think the Trust EVM is also, so they've been doing testing on it and it's been incredibly performant. More swaps per second than Solana, like by 2 times or something like that. But all I know is technologically it's waiting for some of the features in Antelope in Leap 3.1. So specifically, there's some crypto primitives that were introduced, which are essentially things that help with ZK snarks and that kind of thing. So those are hosted functions, which means that you don't have to run them in your smart contract. They run directly in the code of the chain. So because of the less abstraction, it's more performant, and that's part of what enables EVM on EOS to be so performant. But as for the exact date, I know it's going to be after the 21st, probably just like with IBC, it's going to be basically right after, but I'm not
Really?
positive on that one.
Up until this past week, I think, I thought the EVM would be next, but then I heard the announcement about IBC and looked at a little bit of what was said, and don't know, I just got the feeling that the event might be put on a back burner a little bit. I didn't hear anything along those lines, but no, but what you're saying, right? Then you have the other thing is the upgrade to Ethereum. So I didn't know if that played a role. Someone said it didn't.
Yeah, that's tomorrow, I think. Pretty
Oh.
sure.
Cool. I didn't know that's tomorrow. That's exciting and big news for the whole crypto industry. A couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's bits and pieces from what I hear roll out. It's not going to be like it was one shot. So.
Right. A couple things that I have heard and was inspired by your discussion, Marco and Andrew. One, there was recent messages in the EOS Telegram chat from the developer of TrustSwap, Esteban, who he seemed to not know when the Trust EVM was coming out. So I think it's weeks, but I'm not sure, and I'm not sure if it's been communicated. But I'm looking forward to it a lot. And then also Shans, yeah, he is a great contributor to a lot of Ethereum DAOs. Like I saw he made like some really detailed posts on Aragon DAO. So he joined for the first time last week, ƒractal, and then he joined again. He's in another room today. But I'd be interested to hear his opinion about the Ethereum and Trust EVM at some point. He shared a lot of great DAO tools that work with EVM. So I'm excited how ƒractal and all sorts of EOS communities can use these EVM DAO tools in the near future. And then also, I haven't played Upland yet, but I hope that was fun, Andrew.
Yeah, I bought my my grandparents' old house on Upland in Los Angeles.
Nice. Have you turned it into a place to throw parties and have drum sessions?
Not yet. I think I got to collect more Spark, I think they call it. There's like 2 different kind of tokens. One of them is for purchasing land. One's for building like little houses on there. I haven't delved too far into it. I just log in every day so I can just say I'm here. You get something free for logging in every day, so might as well.
Cool, nice. Have you been hanging out with the llamas?
With the llamas.
The llamas, you know what I'm talking about?
I know that's their logo or their little mascot there.
Yeah.
I don't know if it might be nice to have a little ƒractal meeting where everyone dresses up as llamas. Or I guess not dresses up, but you can do some funky stuff here with the video.
That's true. Yeah. I've been looking into AI art generators and so forth, which are fascinating. And the whole AI upcoming, I imagine, like I just got the thought of Upland fractals where everybody is different llamas and a bunch of llamas talking to each other. So we might have some weird things coming up in our future. There we go. Wax is turning into a deer and a pig. Wax is going through all the more equal animals right now. Wow, Wax looks even more futuristic now. That looks pretty dope.
Some ski goggles.
It looks like you just sold a record for like $7 million, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that fun too. And meanwhile, Nick is just hanging out with his bees.
I am not a cat.
I could have sworn Andrew in human form was just here.
Tricky, you know.
That's that's why I keep this name up here. And I have yet to hear people explain NFTs the way I explain them. Just a unique thing on the blockchain. But the idea that you could have a famous persona or something like that, a trademark or brand, and you can do all this stuff with it. Once assigned to crypto, it changes the game entirely. People still, and you guys know this, but I always say NFTs, they're unique. You have a blockchain, which is a ledger that the whole peer group can write to. You have crypto, which is valuation on there, and then you have NFTs that something is unique. Well, unique is identity. So when someone says NFTs are useful for identity or your membership or like to get into a club or something like that, for anyone who studied marketing and what they tried to do with the internet sort of failed. NFT makes a reality. It's a big deal if you walk into, you know, supermarket works, and the effort that managers go to push products to the front of the line that people don't want to buy. That can get outdated when you tie it directly to the accounting ledger. You stop production right there. So something as silly as a avatar becomes incredibly powerful that corporations will just go after. There's actually two. There's, I think, South Korea and Burma that have like thousands of mascots throughout their country. I think they're ahead of the game. Anyway, I see a minute left.
Cool. Yeah.
Don't worry,
So-
Marco, they're listening.
Yeah, we're listening and also having fun. You know, Waxer just loves his lollipops, so he's had 6 of them just now. But yeah, good points, Marco, and yeah, great meeting everybody. This was fun. Hope everybody enjoyed
I
it.
like the transparency of that one.
What, this one? I think this one looks pretty cool. Like you can still, it's not
Transparency
too,
is good, yeah.
it's not too disruptive, and it's like I'm seeing in, you know, colors. And actually, strangely, everything that I look is all colorful now too. You wouldn't think it works that well, but it does.
Wow, this metaverse thing is getting freaky.
All right. All right. Thanks, everybody.
See ya.
There's a flood.
I just realized I was muted as I was saying a bunch of stuff. I want to say thanks to Andrew. He left, but I hope he had a good time. And then hope everybody had a great time at the meetings. And I also said, welcome Shans, and it's great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
You got a rainbow on your face.
Yeah, we were playing, we were playing around with it, and then I'm trying in the last room because we had some time to just mess around. At one point, Waxa was eating like 7 lollipops and doing all sorts of cool stuff. And now I'm trying to remember how to turn it off. Okay, down to business time. No more rainbows across the eyes. So how's everybody doing?
That was the best breakout room ever. I mean, a bunch of power players in that room.
Yeah, I was gonna say we had Sean's in there, and he brings yeah, I think he brings a lot of good experience with, you know, his involvement in other DAO projects over in Ethereum. So we were talking a little bit about his experience over there, and also kind of explaining the Eden story to him of kind of like how we've gotten to the Eden fractal. So it was a good room, and yeah, I don't know if Sean's, if you wanted to add anything. I know we got cut out at the end, but basically he was sharing one application called Coordinate on Ethereum. And so, you know, it is good for us to look at other projects that are doing something similar and see what we can take. And, you know, we're doing that with basically Fractally, but also there's other projects too, like we can be, you know, a conglomerate of all the best things that we see. And as we're a young community and it can get steered in whatever direction makes most sense for the community.
Yeah, so I worked as a DAO tooler, is to recommend different DAO tools to different DAOs. And I test different, different, they used to come to me if they have some problems in terms of payouts, in terms of building analytics and Notion. So I try out different tools. I talk with the founders of different Web3 projects and do a review and then get back to them. Yeah, so that's how Coordinate was formed from Yearn Finance, and it's quite a good project. One of the founders is Trackable Tricks. He's very, very good in the knowledge-based DAOs. And I'll recommend going through his videos and his tweets. You can learn a lot.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was just looking into Coordinate a lot over the past few weeks, and I listened to I still don't know how to say his name, ƒractal. He has a bunch of great interviews with the Bankless podcast that I listened to. He's got some really insightful thoughts regarding like kind of like related to nature, talking about how DAOs enable people to cooperate, kind of like how nature does. He puts it really fascinating. I'll share some links in there. Recommend everybody check it out, and then also Shannon's too. I checked out. I don't know if Shannon shared in your breakout room, but he probably did, I guess. But I would recommend checking out Shannon's Twitter account too, because he has a great mind map for DAO tools on mostly Ethereum space. And I'm excited about how these tools can also help Eden Fractal and EOS, especially when the Trust EVM is launched. And then, yeah, there's a lot that we can learn from overall. So I recommend checking them out. And once again, thanks, Shans, for sharing all this stuff with you. It's very much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
You're welcome, of course.
Sweet deal. Well, I think we should get into the interim process unless we have anything else. So we can, yeah, I do think it would be good if we like, let's accept something and let's do it with the, like, we should be able to accept something today to where we can make the changes next week, right? Because the process is that flexible. That's what I think we should be accepting. If we're not there yet, then that's what I think we need to be the goal for whatever we would accept next week would be, is if we accept it, it's easy to be able to change it next week. That's just kind of how I would base my decision on it. So I haven't had time to go through what is being proposed. So I don't know if we go through that now and then we make the decision then. I'm not sure how you guys are wanting to do this, but yeah, I think the sooner we make decisions better, because we do have eyes on us. This is week 15. We are stagnating a little bit, but I mean, it's fine as long as we're still working on trying to get something going. But I do agree with like kind of the emphasis of like, hey, we need to be taking actionable steps and making decisions, and because that just helps, like, anyone who's watching from the outside, seeing what we're doing is not, we're not just showing up every week, and just kind of not knowing where we're going. Let's like let's take some actions, and then hopefully, those actions will lead to more actions in the future. But I think that whatever we accept today, it should be flexible enough to where we could basically revert it next week, with no issue. So that's just kind of my input, but yeah, I'll let you lead the way, Dan.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Yeah, so I don't know if everybody was here before. Tadas and I both, I think, agreed that I think that we should wait until next week before making a decision on the proposal, because without Chris, I don't see what is. So one thing that Tadas mentioned that I completely agree with is I don't think there is a huge rush. Like, we want to get this done soon, but I don't think it'd be wise to do it this week. I just shared a proposal like 9 hours ago, so I think it would be rushing it for people to expect to read that and also compare it with Tadas's proposal. I also haven't had a chance to fully comprehend everything about Tadas's proposal too, so I'm not sure if everybody's seen it, but I wrote in the Discord Telegram, or not Telegram, the Discord channel for proposal initiatives in the thread for the interim consensus process. I wrote some reasons why I don't think that we should pass the proposal right now. I wrote like 6 reasons. One of the reasons was also I had a conversation with Dan Larimer at the Practically Genesis meeting on Saturday. Dan Larimer voiced some caution for accepting interim consensus proposals too fast, because he said sometimes interim processes can tend to just stay there. Like, for example, the interim process to move off the gold standard and so forth, and how that can be corrupted. So I think that's wise, and it's wise for us to wait for several reasons, but I think that we should discuss it now. And I don't think we're stagnating at all. I think I don't understand why Chris is acting like this is slowing it down, or Felix. I think that like we're making huge progress. Partially just we're making progress just by being here and sharing contributions. We're doing what we aim to do already. And then things like Tadas's proposal, the votes proposal, like these are good developments. It doesn't have to be passed right now, but there's a lot of good developments in addition to all the other things. Yeah, I suppose that I'll leave it at that for now and pass on to Tadas.
Thanks. So one reason that I think we shouldn't rush proposals is that something that Dan mentioned, that Dan Larimer alluded to, is that by rushing passing proposals, we could pass a proposal which changes the consensus process in a way that prevents us to being flexible in the future. So in general, I think it's good to be careful with passing proposals which change the consensus process. And the way I see it, this consensus process is not the main function of Eden Fractal. Its main function is these weekly meetings where we share our contributions and have chance to collaborate and allocate respect. And we are already doing that. So in my eyes, we are not stagnating. This is the consensus process. In my eyes, it's something extra, something necessary, but like in my eyes, Eden Fractal is already working well enough, and we should eventually pass this proposal. But personally, I wouldn't rush this. Marco.
I just want to say, I completely agree with that. I think that's very well said.
I like getting things done. I like getting things done that are in the right time. I don't think it's the right time to pass proposals. I believe in caution, but I will say this. In response to what you brought up about Dan mentioning the gold standard, a way around that is, again, weekly ratification. So every time we come here, we have to come to consensus at the beginning of the meeting if we're going to adopt that proposal, because it gets rejected or has a timeout for 1 week long. That's been used successfully in the past. It obviously doesn't work to build on something, but it does work for operational departments or temporary projects or whatever. Keep it in mind for whatever reason.
Cool. Thanks, Marco. Lenny, you're muted.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say, I believe I'm next in line. I agree with Tadas and Dan, mainly because I haven't honestly had a chance to read up on things. I started to get in today, so I have 2 things related to it, but I've only done 1/3 of a review. Now we have it's been referred to a proposal on consortium, and it's only 2 votes on it, but we have 29, I think it was, members there, and that's quite okay. That's quite good, actually. But the question is, that proposal there now, there's been a lot of development since, and other proposals. Should we mute that proposals or something so we don't get any issues where people not knowing what are we deciding on and similar? That's number 1, because there is this one sitting still alive in the consortium, the original one. That original one, and I haven't read now 2/3 of new proposals, the time frame. It seems a bit rushed considering the habits of people and how much they do read regularly, daily, and such and similar. And Marco, I totally agree with him when he said and mentioned that we should have 2 levels, one for the routine process decisions and then one for the, like consensus changes, whatever. It's 2 different levels. Yeah? And then you got to have longer time, but you can have some that are shorter time. But to have minimum 3 days and then 1 break session, that means 3 days plus the breakout session plus 1 hour. Boom, that's a decision. I know people that don't come in and check messages and stuff, I mean, for days and on end. So I don't know. I think it's a bit short. I don't know. It's just a general thought. But the main one is the current proposal on consortium. Shall we forget about that one? Thanks.
Yeah, so I guess to add a couple of comments to what's been said, no, I agree we shouldn't rush into anything, but when I mean by like accepting something today, it's like I think we need to be building on top of simple proposals, and we can make it more complex as we go. From what I'm seeing, it looks like there's a lot in there of like with a lot of like assumptions of like trying to like prevent things, which I get, right? We want to have a good system that's preventative of things, but at the same time, I don't know, it's something super complex, like accepting something like that then may get us stuck into a place where it's going to be hard to reverse back. And I just think we need to be making decisions, though. We can't just keep moving. Like, I disagree. I think we are a little stagnant. We've been talking about interim process for what, 3 weeks now. We haven't accepted anything. So a whole month has gone by. We've got an Eden election coming up. Like, we need to be having actionable results if we want to get more if we want more money, basically. If we want investors to be able to believe in this process, we have to show that, hey, we're making decisions and we're not just pushing them off week to week. So again, I just think we need to have something more simple, and then we can use the proposal process to make things, to add the extra layers that we're wanting to add to help prevent things that we think could reoccur. But I think next steps we need to get something where we can basically just vote on, okay, this week we want to try this. Okay, if the community can reach an agreement on this, then we're going to try it for, whatever that. Maybe it'd be best to propose something where it's like, we're going to do it for 2 weeks, and then we'll see how the results are, and then we'll come back and determine what way we go next. But next steps, though, too, is like, we need to start to get numbers in here. We need to be ready to be able to take on more people, so that going into the Eden election, and then even later, like new Pomelo season, we can be like, hey, this is what we're bringing to the table. We brought in X many people into both Eden and the EOS community. These are our numbers. And then there's nothing that anyone else can say. But right now, if you go into the Eden Telegram chat, like, I mean, there's some things that's like, some people are saying like, the Eden Fractal is splitting Eden. Like, regardless, we need to have numbers to back up with what we're saying. Like, we can have all the belief in the world that this is going to be successful, but we need to start to put down some like results, basically. And so not to try to make things like seem like negative, but I'm just saying, like, from my viewpoint, it feels like we're a little bit stagnated. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for sharing your thoughts, Felix. I'll respond to Lenny first. And
I agree. Stagnation is not a good thing.
Okay.
It makes people want to leave.
Okay. Chris says in his very dramatic black and white. Okay, so to respond to Lenny first, Lenny said, I presume proposal on consortium is out of date. So no confusion. So the proposal that's currently on consortium, there's only one proposal that's not out of date. So there was the original proposal that I shared like 3 weeks ago or so. That was modification of the first interim consensus process, whereby people ranked 4, 5, or 6 could have a vote. And then Vlad took that down. I also changed the link on that. So that's why the link wasn't working sometime. I remember watching Felix and Chris and Vlad wondering why that link wasn't working, but I removed the hyphen. So that was the reason. And then Vlad took it down. So the original proposal is down, that's withdrawn. The proposal that's currently on there is Tadas's proposal, which is currently still an active proposal. That's one of 2 proposals that's currently in discussion right now.
My defense, I haven't read everything yet, so I'm a little bit out of touch when I'm commenting. Thanks, then I understand.
Okay, cool, sounds good, and no problem, there's a lot going on. And also Lucas, man, I forgot to say, I should have asked Lucas, or I guess any of us should have asked just how his first experience was, being that it was his first time joining. But I hope he had a good time, and I hope whoever was in the room with Lucas was welcoming him and so forth. But Lucas is awesome. He does a lot of great work for the EOS community. But anyway, yeah, I'll talk with him later. And so yeah, the current proposals, I'll also share too. I tried to summarize like the current progress of proposals here. In this edencares.com/edenfractal/interim consensus processes, where you can find links to Tadas's proposal, and you can also find links to the proposal I just made 12 hours ago or so, called the Eden Votes proposal. And then you can also look at the older proposals, as well as videos and timestamps from recent meetings if you want to dive in deeper. But right at the top of there, it has links to the Eden Votes proposal and Tadas's proposal. And so can learn from there that they're both so active. Regarding the time frame, I agree. So that was one thing that I think I did differently than Tadas's proposal, the way that I defined it in the votes proposal. If anybody hasn't checked out the votes proposal, by the way, just to summarize, I think people probably heard it before, but it's basically creating a new token that's called votes, and that token it gets distributed just like the respect token, and it has the same proportion as respect token. So for every respect Eden token you earn, you also earn votes token. But votes tokens are never tradable and won't ever be tradable, and can't be purchased or sold or anything like that. So it's you can only earn it by participating in meetings, perhaps eventually by participating on social media or something like that too. But for now, the only way to earn it is by participating in meetings. And then we basically use consortium to vote, whereby during meetings you have to get 67% of votes to vote to pass a proposal. So one of the main differences between this proposal and Tadas's proposal is that with the votes proposal, everybody can vote. If somebody just shows up at one meeting, gets level 2 or 5 or 1 or whatever, then they can vote, and they'll just have less votes than somebody who shows up at every meeting and gets more respect and more votes and so forth. But it gives everybody a voice, and it's a way to use consortium. So that's kind of the basic. I'm happy to go into more details or answer any questions or discuss it. But one of the differences between the votes proposal and Tadas's proposal was I increased the time that it needs to pass the proposal. I made it basically where proposal would need to be passed at this meeting. It would need to be created on chain during this meeting to be able to approve next week, or before this meeting rather. Basically, we have to have at least this meeting to discuss it, and it needs to be at least 6 days and 21 hours. So that way people have more time to think about things. I think it makes the most sense to be more cautious, because as I think Marco mentioned, I think Lenny mentioned, it'd be eventually helpful to have different levels for simpler proposals that don't need as much approval, and more complex proposals that need more approval and so forth. But for the time being, I think that we just need to design it in the cautious way, so that we give enough time for people to think about the biggest proposals, and then over time we can also add more modifications to make it simpler to approve it faster. But I think that we should start it where it's basically a week that you need to discuss it first, or that people have to have time to think about it for at least a week. So that's one thing. And then I know I've been talking for a while, so maybe I should pass it on, but also I haven't responded to Felix yet. Maybe Lenny or Marco, would you like to go first, or should I respond to Felix's points first? Okay, cool. You're muted, by the way, but I think I understood what you're saying from the gesture. Okay, cool. This sounds good. Yeah, and then I totally agree with what you're saying, Felix. We want to make it simple. Well, I don't totally agree with everything you're saying, but I totally agree with your point that we want to make it simple, and we don't want to make it too complex. And it's good, generally speaking, we can jump into it and then we can steer and guide as we go. But also, as Tadas mentioned, we don't want to make a proposal for an interim consensus process that kind of puts us into a place where it's tough to get out of, because we say, oh, well, only these people can make a decision, but then they don't want to make a decision and so forth, and that can stagnate the community. I think that we've already been hugely successful in so many ways, as Josh was saying, just by coming to these meetings and so forth. And the way I see it is Eden Fractal's on an exponential growth trajectory. So there's a lot of things that I've been working on behind the scenes. This votes proposal is one part of it. Also the collaborative website and so forth, and many other initiatives that I think will be very helpful for Eden Fractal in the near future. I'm excited to release a lot in the coming weeks, and I think that a lot of you other than myself also have a lot of exciting ideas for Eden Fractal. I know Vlad was saying he wants to make some proposals, so I'm interested to hear Vlad's thoughts. But I think that it's okay for Eden Fractal to be at this kind of steady state while we're building, and this is the most important thing in many ways, that we can decide upon how we make community decisions. So I think it makes sense for us to take time. I don't think that I think it's good that we've been talking about it for a month or longer. But yeah, and then also numbers to back it up too. And there are some good numbers, in the Eden on EOS chat I shared some numbers, half of the most recent 14 people who have been inducted to Eden on EOS have been from Eden Fractal, essentially. We're also getting some good video views, and Eden Fractal is currently one of the most popular events in EOS, and all sorts of progress with the proposals and NFTs and videos and everything. So there's a lot of good stuff that Eden Fractal is doing. Yeah, but I'll leave it at that now, and I'm interested to hear everybody's thoughts.
Okay, if I take it then, it was just actually a more technical question. Maybe Vlad is the one best to answer on this one, because I'm a bit rusty. I use consortium a lot, but mainly a year back or so. Now, you mentioned change link, I understand that, or rather the link in the below. But does that mean that people, because if there were votes earlier, then they voted for a different proposal, but is that an automatic zeroing of their votes, or can they come in and delete their votes and vote again because it's a new different link? I'm just looking at the synchronization between votes and change of proposals? Maybe Vlad can answer.
Well, the details will be for us to decide, but for that we need the process.
Yeah, what if there is 2 votes like there is today, and then Dan goes in and change the link to a different variation of a proposal, those votes was for the previous proposal, not the current one. So it's not the voting, the way I recall it, is locked in. And even if you change links and whatever, I have locked in those votes, and that stuck with the original. I might not agree with a later proposal that's been inserted into the polling. That's the one I'm trying to clarify. If it's too complicated, I can go in and play around and find out myself.
I'm not sure what, like.
I'll take it in text form in our Eden Fractals. Don't worry, don't have to waste time here. I'll put it up more logically on in text. Thanks.
As far as I understand too, and Vlad can correct me if I'm wrong, the proposals on consortium, they can't be edited. So once you make them, then you can't edit the link and change the link. So once they're up, if that helps answer your question. It's not like we can change the link between them after.
I see. I thought you mentioned that you had changed the link because.
Oh no. So yes, what I was saying there is that so I originally created the proposal and I did it something like edenclears.com/eden-fractal/interim consensus process, and then Vlad made a proposal saying should we pass this, and he linked to that, and then a couple of days later I was like I didn't want the hyphen to be there, so I removed the hyphen from the URL, and then so I did that, but that broke the proposal or broke the link on the proposal that Vlad made.
Yeah. Anyway, it's an interesting thing because it could be an attack vector as well in future, just to keep it in mind.
That's true. That's a good point, actually. So now, one of the things that I mentioned in the votes proposal is that I think that proposal should be in some way on chain. So whether we use IPFS or a BBS or Hive or something, because that is true. Like technically, I could have changed that proposal on edencreators.com and then people wouldn't know what they're voting for. So that's definitely an attack vector and something that we should establish to make sure that that like the proposals are immutable and stored on chain.
It doesn't matter now, of course, but for future, when we are thousands of people, we need to have it set properly from beginning. Thanks.
Yeah. And I think it does matter now. Like it's not very difficult to do, I don't think. Like I'm pretty sure just by making a post on BBS or Hive or something like that, and all that data is on chain. And I do think that whichever proposal we wind up implementing, whether it's DAS or the votes proposal or whichever other one, that when we pass that, we should pass it on chain from the beginning, because then people know, like there's no going back into disagreements, like, oh, what did we actually agree to and so forth. That's something big that the Fractal team has spoken about. And that's why the Genesis Fractal has like the Fractal contribute agreement and stuff like that, because he says that, like he talked about, Dan Lambert talked about like block 1, and like there weren't on-chain agreements, so people had different expectations and different understandings. But the more that we can establish that on-chain and have it in like a verifiable and mutable and transparent way that can't be changed, then that's a better, because everybody knows what they're agreeing to better from the start.
New point just brought up with I mentioned in Discord, but we have the opportunity to advance I guess how things are done in having a combined proposal. There was a Fractal Fiction, I don't know if anybody's aware of it, but Fractal Fiction used this process, the Fractal process, to write a story. We could use that to write the proposal. At the very least, we should strongly consider combining the proposal. That's been done before, and it's probably going to be the future as technology allows for more advanced working tools and spaces. So, anyway, just throw that out there. I know it's kind of tough to combine these well thought out published ideas, but the reason why I had my hand up was the votes thing. I like it a lot. I like it a heck of a lot. My initial, I thought about it many weeks ago in listening to some of Fractal's mechanisms. And I haven't changed my opinion since then, in that I think the reason why the Fractal team hasn't looked at it is because at some point, as things get larger, there's a limited use case for it. There was mention of using staking or some sort of experience for voting, but there were issues brought up. I believe we should try it in a kind of secondary thing. We can use voting and things. We should still maintain the council and a assurance or a overseeing thing, the way Fractal does. But yeah, I back the idea of having voting tokens for making decisions. Actually, that was sort of what was behind the Flash consensus that I proposed maybe a couple of months ago. Would be, but again, it was limited in scope, and that was based on this past week or very recent attendance is much smaller than the 12 weeks that Fractal had mentioned. And the last thing I'll say is, whenever I post an airplane, usually it means I'm leaving, but there are other times I'll post it. It just means I agree it has an aviation feel to it, or a global networking thing kind of feel to it. And I just throw that out there because ultimately that's what we're doing. Was it idea support? We used translation bot on our phone for Spanish and Chinese and things like that. And ultimately, yeah, this is going to be needed as translation as you speak. It's Star Trek sort of. So yeah, whenever the plane goes up, I see something global like that and whatever you say.
Cool. Thanks for explaining that, Marco. I saw you post a plane before, and I see you post it fairly frequently, and and that helps to clarify what it means to. I figured there was some excitement because I know that you're very passionate about aviation. But yeah, helpful clarification. And then, yeah, you said a bunch of other stuff too that unfortunately I didn't take notes for, but I think was good points and so forth. One note that I'll add too is that this votes proposal, it's kind of inspired by the social media aspect of Fractally. So with Fractally, people do vote essentially according to the white paper in social media application.
Yeah, that was the Flash consensus idea, and I think that's how it works. Twitter has a limited scope, but it can be very, very effective. Gamify the whole thing. I honestly don't know where it can go, so I like to use it. I'd like to, yeah, I'd love to just jump in on it. We just don't place a strong emphasis on it.
Yeah. One of my thoughts is that so the Fractally white paper has essentially voting with level tokens on social media once the Fractally social media component is live. And I thought about doing level when doing the votes proposal and have it equivalent to level. And I think it could go either way, but just making it equivalent to respect seems to make more sense. But I think that one of the cool things about this votes proposal is that one, it can give us an interim consensus process for now that I think works quite well. And then two, it can help set us up for the future. Like I've mentioned several times that I've been exploring BBS, and BBS is a social media application on EOS that is built by the creators of Bancor and Liquid Apps. It's quite an interesting project that's been in development for a long time. We've spoken about it for a while, and I'm curious to hear from Vlad. I'm still planning on doing more research. I wrote a story in Everything EOS Weekly Report and a hot sauce about it last week. But I think that potentially, like, if we do create a votes token or something like that, then we could, or a level token or whatever we do, then everything on BBS is on chain already, and it has a UI that can be hosted by BBS, and it has upvotes and downvotes there already. So and they also have a tokenomic system. So basically we can use BBS, use the tokenomic system, but also attach our own tokenomic system, whereby we basically use the social media system defined in Fractally white paper. That's also included in the edencreation.com/votes proposal. There's a link to a description in the page, I think like the 29th page of the ƒractal white paper. But basically, if we can use the token and then enable people to upvote and downvote posts and make posts and then earn respect, so people don't necessarily have to join the meetings to earn respect and so forth, then I think that would be really powerful and really helpful. And it seems like a lot of the tools are already here, and perhaps simple to do because a lot of it's already built. But yeah, I'd be interested if anyone has any thoughts about that or just in general about whatever else. And welcome back, Andrew. Thanks for joining us again.
Thanks.
I don't know if Vlad was going to speak on that, but I'll say, go ahead, Vlad.
I haven't dived like into technical details of the DDS, so I can't say.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll also, I'm still planning to read the white paper too. I did quite a bit of research over the past couple of weeks on it. And I'll also share a link to the blog post that I wrote about it in the Everything Else Weekly report, because it has a bunch of links where you can like check out the accounts and stuff. It took me a while to find it, but they have like 6 different accounts on EOS and so forth.
What might help endure with the whole votes thing is, again, through the second 2 levels. Total votes that you have, vote tokens that you hold, and the past sweep. This might also work with people who don't attend the meetings, but let's say one of us here decides to leave for a month on vacation and come back, and no one that's been at the meetings is any of us here, but they've been diligent in coming in the past month and they've been doing things. We come in, step in out of contact with all our votes from the beginning, and we screw everything up. The 2 levels, even for the past month or the past week, the past meeting, or we've been distributed stuff, distributed tokens based on the past meeting, we'll have a mechanism to continue the momentum in recent days. And then those who understand the process, like us, who've been through it, who've studied it, who've earned the respect, to make the decisions at last. That might help those vote tokens endure and act in a different way, but still come to a positive end to something like the council or something. Again, I don't know where this is going. It's stuff that I think about, but when I think about it, I do bear in mind the complexity of the issues that Facebook, Twitter have faced, and why they haven't adopted crypto, and when they do try to bring it in, why they anyway.
Well, thank you, Marco. I do want to. I'm curious to hear, Waxa, your thoughts. I think this is your 2nd week I've seen you here, and I'm always interested in hearing, new perspectives of, what you think of so far the Eden Fractal, and just what's on your mind.
I'll quickly talk about what I think we should do with regards to stagnation and progress. I think the group should come together and decide or vote upon a suitable date for the new implementation to take place. Because at the moment, it doesn't seem to be the decision on that doesn't seem to be built upon consensus. But I could be wrong. And if it's meant to be decentralized, it should be a community decision to decide when it should take place. So that's one thing. And then perhaps within that process, you have a cutoff date. Say within a week, everyone needs to have read the proposal that wants to take part in voting for when it needs to take place. And maybe you could do that over 2 or 3 days. And then by the end of next week, you should be able to put it in place if you voted on it properly. So I think making progress like that, at least you've got incremental steps in which everyone's involved in taking, and people know they're heading in a direction, rather than having kind of an unended, an open end date for when it could be launched. If you've been talking about something for a month already, that's quite a long time. Whereas you need to kind of have steps in progress, which you are making, but it's just not necessarily written down as steps. It's just a step that you make progress every week, but it'd be good to just note it down. The Eden Fractal process has been good so far. I've enjoyed my first week last week, and this week was good as well. It's kind of flawless, seamless, easy process to get through. So yeah, I'm going to keep coming as much as possible. Usually this time at 3 o'clock, so 38 minutes ago I'll have to leave. abruptly every week, so I won't be able to stay here for the after discussion, but hopefully I can be here for all of the different processes each week if I can. That's good so far. Enjoy it. And good discussion today as well about this topic.
All right, sweet. Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Waxa. Those are definitely great points. Yeah, I think I very much agree. I think, yeah, those are kind of, yeah, what I'm kind of looking forward to as well. Like, yeah, that's perfect. Honestly, those actionable steps that Waxa kind of just listed, I think is what we should do is like, yeah, first step, let's set up a date. And then from there, yeah, let's just start voting and moving as a community. Because some of the things I'm thinking about is like, well, okay, we accept this proposal. What's next though? Who's wanting to use this? Like, I think we're going to know what to set up once we start to see like how proposals are coming in. And then, you know, we may set up something that may be really good, but eventually we're going to have to make changes to it because we're going to identify a problem with it. And so that's kind of my idea of keeping it simple, see who uses it, and then we make changes as we see them. But if we accept something with a lot of complexity, then it's going to be harder to change those things as well. But no, yeah, thank you, Waxa. That was great. Much appreciated. And yeah, glad to have you here too. Like, I definitely like to identify, you know, key value members that are participating here, because yeah, you're bringing a lot of contributions just by being here and with your experience. And so like, yeah, getting your insight on this also helps us as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Felix. Appreciate it.
Yeah, very much appreciate it, Waxa. Thank you. And it's great to see you. And I'm looking forward to working with you more on this and all sorts of stuff. Das?
Yeah, so I would reply to what Felix was saying regarding passing a proposal and then seeing how it is used. I think that's not how it should be done. I would suggest a more top-down approach. Like, we have this community here, and we can ask it, what proposals will you want to pass once we have an interim consensus process? Do we really, then we will see how much we should rush. Is it worth rushing passing the consensus proposals? Because like, generally I don't think it's a good idea in software engineering and in life in general to make decisions for the sake of making decisions. You have to see some purpose in that. So maybe we should start with finding use cases for our consensus process that we are going to pass. That's how in software engineering, that's how applications are designed. You start with use cases, and so then we will know how we will be able to evaluate how badly do we need this, and how badly should we rush it, and why we would need it. So that's just my perspective, how I would look at it. Yeah, so I don't see a purpose. I don't see a purpose in passing a proposal just for the sake of showing that we are moving, we are making decisions. Like I said again, the main purpose of the seed and fractal is not to move as one unit in my mind. Its purpose is to facilitate collaboration. I don't think that actually moving as one unit, making decisions as one unit introduces potentially legal problems for the whole community. So maybe it's more effective, more wise for Eden Fractal to act through its members as individuals instead of making moves as one unit. Yeah, so that's my perspective. Thanks.
Both Felix and Tadas are right as far as in terms of textbook stuff, but there is a use case for what Felix was saying, and that is stress points. I'm of the opinion that yeah, making changes, just for the sake of making changes isn't a good thing. generally, most of the time, like a lot of the time, but when it comes to innovation and things like that, to be certain, we could use this process. And at the same time, what you do get anyway is experience. So we're here when we want to do something, we can do it. Just bear in mind any potential pitfalls where things, as Dan Fireman said, when you make a change, it may be hard to remove it. And again, I will push forward the idea of the expiration date before the next meeting, so you got to ratify it anytime you come in.
Cool. Thanks, Marco. And also say thanks to Evgeny. It's been great seeing you. Thanks for joining us again. Really appreciate you being here and sharing your and sharing your help and stuff like that. And hope you have a great day and hope to see you again next week. Yeah, so well, one of my plans was to also well, thanks Felix for asking Wax about his thoughts. That was awesome. And then also I'd be interested if Andrew, it's only Andrew's second time here, I think, although he's been following for a long time and helping you in the background a lot too. But yeah, I also had some thoughts and responses to what Felix and Tadas were saying, but I don't know, maybe Andrew, do you want to share any thoughts, or you don't have to, but I just figured it might be helpful to ask.
Mostly just listening right now. I don't have strong opinions on the interim consensus process. I might if someone had some crazy, terrible ideas, but I haven't heard any crazy, terrible ideas. So remaining open-minded.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. I guess we won't make Andrew the king then. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, so
no, but please don't.
Yeah, so I was going, oh, Vlad's got his hand up. Vlad, do you want to go first?
Yeah. Well, I see a parallel to our situation. What is happening still with EOS and Cardano. So Cardano has an approach that let's put a lot of theory behind it. Let's do those research papers and based on that develop our technology. EOS, what did we do? Just release the first iteration into the wild and start experimenting with it. So I think we're kind of in the same situation right now. And with your proposal, Dan, I think it will take us 3 weeks for it to implement. And that's in a good case scenario. I liked Felix's points today that the process has to be flexible enough so that by using it, we could change it. And yeah, just one option is to still accept the Tadas's process, but continue working on your idea and continue refining it. So that in the meantime, we could already start working on other stuff. Yeah, that's the thought.
Thanks, Vlad. Great thoughts. Is something you want to say there, Felix?
Yeah, I was just gonna add too. I think, yeah, thank you, Vlad, for also kind of reaffirming I guess what I'm also trying to say is there just seems to be like a lot of complexity with your guys' proposals. And so I guess my kind of proposal on those proposals is to like implement it one step at a time, add extra layers, but first start with the most simplest, right? It's like, we're just going to accept that, hey, when we come to terms to vote on something, now this is how we're going to accept it as a community. And then from there, then we can add the extra layers that you guys have been working on. Cause like, I'm not trying to say like, let's scrap it all, I'm just trying to say like, let's implement it like, week by week. But then that also helps educate the community though, too. It's like, okay, this is the layer that we're adding to, the basic part of the the voting proposal. It's just like we're accepting votes through whatever the results are on consortium, if that's the direction we go. And then whatever the additional layer of like, okay, now we want to add where you votes are not like, or what's being voted on is not locked into place until 6 days afterwards. And then we vote on that. And then now that's added into the system. So one, it's educating the community. Two, we're getting started. And one of the things that I think that, also kind of inspired some thoughts from what Vlad was saying is, yeah, it's true. Like that's what also gets us like motivated to show up every single week is like the exploration into the unknown of like what can happen if we're thinking so much of like trying to come up with a perfect, like I get what Tadas is saying. Like obviously you don't want to be reckless and just like just do it just to do it, but also it's good to just go and do it though also, but do it in a way that's safe where it's not, like I said, it is reversible. And so I don't know, those are, I guess, just some thoughts that came to mind from Vlad's response. So
Thank you, Felix. Yeah, so a bunch of thoughts here. So one, I do think that at the core, like both proposals that Tadas and I made are like quite simple. They can explain quite simple. Like Tadas's proposal is basically top 6 people who have the highest average level of the past 6 weeks get to vote in 4 to 6. Of course, there's a lot more intricacies there, but that's like the general basis of it, I think. And then the votes proposal is that everybody gets a vote in proportion to how much Eden respect tokens they earn. And then we vote on consortium with the votes tokens, and you have to get over 2/3 of the votes from the respect or from the votes on consortium in order to pass a proposal. So I think they're both like pretty simple in the base level and can be explained simply. I think that we need to, like, the things that you're interpreting as things that are added on, I think they're essential because you need to create a proposal that, and you need to create a system that is ready for the edge cases and ready for all sorts of different things. Like what happens if somebody makes a major proposal 4 hours before that is irreversible and could change the course of the community. Like, for example, one thing I've been thinking about, and I don't know if anybody's thinking about this, but I know it's been mentioned before about like providing liquidity and making the Eden respect token tradable. Like the ƒractal Genesis group has said that in the agreement, it won't be tradable for 1 year. We haven't signed an agreement, and I think it's best to wait for longer, but some people have said that they want to go and make it tradable sooner. And like, that's an irreversible decision, basically, once you do. I mean, maybe it can be reversed to some extent, but also it's something that it happens. So if you have it where you just don't have any time delay, and then that proposal gets passed, then what do you do? If half the people don't want to do that because they think that that's a bad thing, and then half the people do or whatever, but it passes, like that can put the community in an awkward situation. And so it's best that we create a cohesive system. Like, it's simple at the core, but it's cohesive and it has the edge cases thought out and so forth in advance. So we're not trying to build it ad hoc piece by piece after it's already implemented, but we're thinking in advance to prepare for what might come. Which also brings it back to the point that Tadas brought, I think, which is what proposals do we want to pass? Because like, and also I think you mentioned that too, Felix, like it's good to design it for like the proposals that we want to pass. Like one of the things I've been thinking about is the potential for somebody to make a proposal for liquidity. Like we want to have time to think about that if somebody does want to propose that. I'm also planning to make a proposal shortly in the coming weeks whereby the Eden ƒractal governance council or voters or whatever can make decisions, editorial decisions for a collaborative website. Where basically I'm building a site called edenbuilders.org where I'm aiming to encourage everybody to make a profile to show what they've been doing to help Eden and EOS and so forth. And so like personally, I'll be sharing all my presentations from every week and everything that I'm doing every week to the community, and then, you know, share a bit of a bio. And I think that like this website could be really helpful so that when people ask, what is the Eden ƒractal community doing? What is Eden and EOS doing? Like we can show them a website where, oh, here's where all the contributions are in one spot. And then also the way I think like we can do it, we can make in many different websites using Notion and different tools too. But like, that's a way, like that's another proposal I'm planning to make in the coming weeks. And so like that needs an interim consensus process. It needs to be well thought out to be built upon it. And so like, those are just some things there. And then I also wanted to ask Vlad too, like technical questions. Like you said, it might take a few weeks to build. I'm wondering how much time you think it would take to build, or if it require compensation or stuff like that. Like I think it would be pretty simple because it's basically using the smart contracts that I already built and using the same thing as respect, but just calling it votes, and then still having it non-tradable and still having it distributed with the same smart contract, but I'm not sure. So I'd just be interested if anybody has some thoughts about that in general, and then also about Vlad about the technical details about what it would take for the votes proposal to be implemented.
So we need to change the function so that it would issue the votes token in addition to the event token. That is not difficult. Then we need to make a function that would issue to everyone, like retroactively or retrospectively, the votes tokens in relation how much event tokens they have right now. And yeah, then changes on consortium. It's not long, but since judging how slow we are, then yeah, I think it's 3 weeks to do that.
Okay, thanks. Just hypothetically, say if we did decide to just approve it, right now, and then also I do have funding from my chief delegate funding where if funding would be helpful for you to do it or do it sooner than that, then how long do you think it would take if you wanted to do it as soon as possible?
Few days.
Okay. Okay, cool. So that's good to know. Okay. You're actually muted.
Just some thoughts to respond to yours, Dan. So like, I know, so what you're saying, like, yes, it's not super complex, but there's still complexities with like I said, at the most basic level, we're accepting something that we're voting on. That's the simplest level, saying that, okay, this is what we're going to choose as a community to accept once we reach results. Reach the results of like the community voting. Now, who gets to propose, who gets to vote, or like how much their vote is weighted on? Those are additional complexities that I think can be voted on through the simplest way at the start, week to week, that can be added. Because with each like little extra thing, like there's debate of like, well, why do we need that? And then there can be other options. And so like, that's how I think we should build, rather than one, like, because what I think what you and Tadas are doing is you guys are kind of, you're extrapolating and trying to think of like, potential attack vectors. And, I definitely see that being useful in the future, but also I think we also need to make things as we are currently in the community. Like right now, we're a small community. Nobody's going to, if somebody comes up with a proposal that swings the community and like, maybe if it's a 51-49 split, then that's the direction the community goes, and that's the direction the community goes. I don't think that's going to happen, but if that's what happens, like that's where the community is wanting to go. So I don't think that's really an issue to worry about. But yeah, I guess that's just kind of the main points is like, I get in the grand scheme of things, it's not like super complex or anything, but as far as I think we need to be voting on every little detail, but let's start with, I don't know. Maybe not every single little detail, but I think simpler the better, so the community can learn together also. And then we're not expecting like, hey guys, we need everyone in the community, because I don't know. Truth is, like, how many people of the full community is going to go through? Hopefully I would like to think that everyone goes through, reads, and has an idea of how everything's going to like what's being proposed. But then I don't know. I just think it's better if we're having discussion around it, because then people are more aware of like what they're going to be voting for, because we're talking about it, rather than expecting, everyone to go read it. And then some people be confused, like, well, what's the point of this? And then they're not really, they can ask in the chat. But again, I like to think of like every meeting, it would be nice if we have something that people are we have something to look forward to, other than just, we're voting on ranking our contributions. Like, what's the next actionable step of moving us in a direction like we think? Like, that's how I can see like also another value add to these proposal processes is it's giving, like I said, us a sense of direction. It's giving the community a chance to voice their opinion of like, where do we want to see this community moving forward next week, and then the week after, and the week after, and then it just, that makes this whole process more engaging, and makes, like, you know, I think that, like, just like I said, another value add as to why people would want to come participate, because then they feel like every week something potentially is on the line, and ideally it should be something small, but it's building, and over time that's going to be something that, you know, you can't just go and just cut all of it all at once. It's going to be hard to take it, but if you're building it bit by bit, you know, I think that's how we build like a more secure and also tested reason behind like what we're implementing into the proposal process.
Yeah, so Felix, your reasoning is, as I understand, is based on the idea that all proposals, even if after they are passed, they are reversible, right? If that's true, well, the problem with that assumption is that we could pass a proposal that would make it irreversible, because this proposal could change the consensus process. And so then what do we do? So that's the reason I suggest being careful, and also what you suggest about building piece by piece, in my mind, it would make it even more complex potentially, at least when it comes to checking the proposals for security issues, because then if you look at one piece in isolation, it could look fine, right? But if you look when you add it to other pieces, when you see the whole context, maybe some security issue is introduced. So for me, it's simpler to analyze proposal as a whole and not build proposals with assumptions that we will change it later. Me and Dan, we don't know how long our proposals will stand after we are approved. So we have to be a little bit careful to not make the community stuck with something that's that produces opportunities to game the system, for example.
Operational departments. What Felix is saying works for operational departments, and the way around any security issues. What you mentioned, Tadas, is a death warrant for the proposal. In this case, it'd be a week because we have another meeting, so it has to be revived every week. Again, operational departments. So yes, use cases are focused or limited in scope.
Yeah, well, I guess this is a solution. So if someone incorporates this death, I'm not sure how you call them. Yeah, so if we ensure that proposals, as I have expiration date, as I understood it, then
the expiration date,
yeah, yes. So if someone incorporates that into their proposal for interim consensus process, then maybe it would be an option to be able to move faster.
Yeah, like have a timeline where we're testing it. We've accepted it, we're testing it, but then we'll have to vote again at the end of the test whether we want to continue on or add some type of iteration. But my main point is just to have it where, again, just it's really simple, where we're voting on things and then we accept it and then we test it out, and nothing being like permanent until we're ready for it to be permanent. I'm not like I agree, and like I respect that, like we're wanting to be cautious with it too, but yeah, I just think like every way, I just think everything that's being built here is like we can get to what your guys' end goal is, but I just, like I said, I think first step is like what are we doing to vote and how are we choosing to accept that? Like that's the number one thing that we have to accept, right? Like we clearly want something to be able to use some way for us as a community to vote, to be like, okay, this is what we're accepting as, you know, the standards, rules, whatever the proposal or the, you know, the process that we're going to utilize, you know, for the direction of this community. And it being very simple though, of like, it's just, this is what we're using. And then now we'll see, okay, now we're using this. Now let's see who wants to use it. And obviously we can build on to what you guys have been working on. So then the next week we'll be like, okay, well, the first layer, when you were thinking about this, what was the first thing that you thought about? Was like the first part that you were like, okay, like, well, who's able to vote? Okay, so then that's the next thing that's going to be proposed. And so you're going to give your proposal as to like, okay, I think, you know, anyone that's ranked 4 to 6 is going to be able to propose a proposal. And this is what I'm proposing this way to be implemented to our basic proposal of just voting using whatever. And that's the idea, is just, and then, you know, if that gets accepted, then that opens up conversation from all sides, different perspectives. And then it's not just like, you know, you running your simulations yourself of like, you thinking of like what could be wrong. Like you may hear some other viewpoint that you hadn't thought about, which could also, you know, refine your current like exploration of like where you think things would be best suited for like the long term. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll also respond to some of the things you're saying there, Felix, as well as Stas, and just things that came up. So there are, as Stas was saying, there's dependencies between, you know, different aspects of the proposal. So in some sense, it makes sense to have like kind of a more centralized vision of how all the of how all those dependencies can play together. Like it's a little bit like building a complex system, like, I don't know, building a computer or something like that. Like to build a computer, you have to have coordination between all the different aspects of it. And if you just take like, you know, one part of the computer and then somebody decides that, and then the community decides another part of the computer and stuff like that, then they might not, you know, coordinate and sync as well as if you think it all in advance and think about how all the different pieces play together and so forth. I think that like it's best to discuss it, and it's best to discuss it now, how all these things work, and build it holistically so that we won't have to think about it so much in the future. Like if we just build one piece now and one piece later, then we have to like, you know, keep thinking about it and so forth. Like if we can just get all our thinking done, if it'd be helpful, I'd be happy to like, you know, walk through my proposal and answer any questions. I think Tadas would probably be happy to do the same. We could do that either now or a different time. Might be helpful to do that sometime during the week where we can just like talk about it in detail so that we don't have to keep on, you know, discussing it on a week by week basis. Because like you said, like most people don't want to, you know, read all the details behind it. They just want it to work. And so if we can get it to work and get it all set up and do it within the next week or a couple weeks or soon, then when people come and when new people join and when everybody's participating, then all they have to know is just how it works. Like they can vote, or who can vote, or how much percentage vote, or everything. And then they don't need to think about all like the game theory and all the different stuff behind it. And then like I totally agree, like it's great if we can all focus, not, you know, just sharing contributions is great in its own, but it's also great if we can have, you know, community focuses that we're collaborating on and so forth. But then once we have this kind of base layer of how we vote and we're not, you know, thinking about it or discussing it much, then we can focus on other things that are in a sense more exciting. Like we could work together to make a proposal to the ENF for funding, or we can do, you know, community projects and stuff like that, in addition to just the natural process of ƒractally, like the meetings and so forth. But we can also, you know, use this proposal to come to decisions about stuff that people are excited about. So those are some thoughts. I'd be interested to hear thoughts. Also, I was also, if Vlad's still there, I was curious if there are any other technical considerations that you think that we might need to think about for the votes proposal. Like I figured there's probably some RAM that needs to be purchased. And then there's probably some other things I'm not thinking about as well. But if there's anything else, Vlad, we could also, you know, correspond in Discord, but I'd be curious if you have any other thoughts about just on a technical basis, any obstacles or any other ideas with the votes proposal that you see?
Yeah, let's discuss it later. I'm driving.
It's pretty difficult to hear you right now, Vlad.
I'm on driving right now.
Okay. Do you want to try to say it again, or we can just talk another time if you think it's better? I was able to hear some of it, but not all of it. I don't know if anybody else was able to hear better.
Yeah, it was choppy on my end too, but yeah, I'm gonna have to head out too as well. But yeah, I think, I mean, we're making progress. I think yeah, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think this is a great conversation. We can move forward, but yeah, the main thinking though too is I think like implementing it in processes too will be nice for people who go back and watch these videos, right? It's all, every single video is being posted, so then they can also see the steps. That's a way for them to educate themselves on like how we reached whatever processes that we end up adopting, just by going back and seeing like, oh, okay, this is the week that they decided on who's allowed to vote, and these were the different perspectives. So then it can always be retouched on later in the future if we accepted one way, but then like, you know, maybe months later or years down the road, someone's like, well, this was initially something that was talked about, and this seems to actually be better now, given the state of where the community is at now. But I don't know, those are just some thoughts. But again, like I said, I think all the work that you guys have done is awesome. I just think that I would like to build into what you guys have been thinking about, you know, at the very basic level. But yeah, and again, this is probably starting to go back into circles of saying the same thing too. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. And then I'm gonna be heading out here though. So yeah, if there's any closing remarks, or I mean, obviously, like you guys can continue. But I'm gonna head out here. But yeah, I wanted to like leave it open if anyone had any response or anything.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Felix, that I would, right now it seems to me that I would agree with speeding up the process, iterating faster, making proposal pass faster if we use what Marco suggested, expiration for proposals. And as I imagine, once we have some base interim consensus process for getting proposal passed, then we could change parts of that proposal or updating parts of that proposal, and that would, I guess, build a kind of process like that you described, where we do it in parts. So it would be something similar to that. Anyway, I will have to head out to so thanks for the discussion, and bye.
Okay, sweet. Yep. Thank you, Tadas. And yeah, I don't know, Dan, did you have anything? If not, I'm gonna head out as well.
Cool. Yeah, I was gonna say thanks, Vlad, has to go too. So thanks, Vlad. Thanks, Dot/Chris and Felix and Das and Vlad. Great discussion. And yeah, I'm looking forward to discussing this. I encourage you, if you haven't read the proposals and stuff, check them out. But yep, thanks for the great discussion, everybody. And hope everybody enjoyed watching too.
All right, sweet. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.
Okay, cool. Thanks, guys. See you. See you, Chris.